What would you do if the person you trusted most shattered your world with a single gift? A husband stumbles upon a secret hidden in plain sight, a gift meant for someone else. As the layers of betrayal unravel, he plans a quiet, calculated revenge that will leave you on the edge of your seat. This is a story of trust broken, emotions running high, and a twist so sharp it will leave you questioning everything. Will he find justice, or is the cost of revenge too high?
It started as an ordinary evening. I came home, set my keys on the counter, and noticed a small, carefully wrapped box on the dining table. At first, I thought it might be something for us, a surprise gift my wife had picked up. But the handwriting on the note attached wasn't hers. It wasn't addressed to me either. My chest tightened. I opened the box with steady hands, hoping for an innocent explanation. Inside, I found a sleek, monogrammed watch. Not my initials, though. Not hers either. Beneath the watch, a note simply read, "To make every moment count, yours." I stood there, the weight of realization creeping over me. The warmth in the note wasn't mine to share. For a second, I wanted to believe it was all a misunderstanding, but deep down, something told me it wasn't. I slid the box back together and placed it exactly where I found it. No confrontation. Not yet. I needed to know more. She walked in a little later, her usual smile lighting up the room. I watched her carefully, wondering if the sight of that box on the table would draw any reaction. And it did, just not the one I expected. "Oh," she said, stopping short, her face stiffening for just a fraction of a second before she quickly masked it with a laugh. Where did that come from? Her attempt at nonchalance was almost convincing. Almost. I shrugged, keeping my tone casual. "No idea. It was here when I got home." She picked up the box, her fingers brushing over the edges. And for a moment, I thought she might say something. Instead, she chuckled nervously. Probably from work, she muttered, avoiding my eyes. "You know how they love to send us these random corporate gifts?" I nodded, as if her explanation made sense, but my stomach churned. Her voice was too high-pitched, her words coming too fast. I had spent years reading her moods, her little tells, and every alarm in my head was going off. Still, I didn't push. Not yet. I let her believe I had accepted her flimsy excuse, but her discomfort lingered in the air, thicker than ever. The next day, I decided to test her story. Over breakfast, I casually brought it up. "That watch. Did you figure out who sent it? Seems like a pretty fancy gift for work." Her hand paused mid-reach for her coffee cup. "Oh, yeah, just one of those vendor things," she replied, her voice too even. "You know how they like to butter us up for contracts?" I nodded, pretending to believe her. "Right? Makes sense. What vendor was it again?" Her eyes flickered, searching for an answer. "Oh, it's not important," she said, brushing me off. "Let's not waste time talking about work stuff." But her deflection only solidified what I already suspected. Later, while she showered, I checked her phone. It was a risk, sure, but my instincts screamed for confirmation. And there was a text thread. No name, just a string of numbers. But the tone of the messages was unmistakable. "I hope you liked it," the latest one read. "Can't wait to see you again." I didn't read further. I didn't need to. The truth was staring me in the face, and it hit me like a freight train. But I kept my expression neutral when she returned, all smiles, chatting about weekend plans. If she noticed my silence, she didn't let on. I knew the truth now, but I wasn't ready to confront her. Not yet. I needed a plan. That night, I barely slept. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, while she dozed beside me as if nothing had happened. Her even breathing felt like a mockery, a reminder of how easily she had woven her lies. A storm raged inside me. Hurt, anger, betrayal. I replayed every moment in my mind, trying to pinpoint where it had all gone wrong. Was it something I'd done? Or had I missed the signs? The truth burned, but so did the realization that I had trusted her completely. We had built a life together, shared dreams, fought through tough times. And now, it all felt hollow, tainted by the knowledge of what she had done behind my back. I couldn't let her see the cracks in my composure. Not yet. During breakfast, I wore my usual mask of calm, responding to her small talk with nods in monosyllables. But every word she said felt like another weight pressing on my chest. I wanted to confront her, to demand answers, but something held me back. The part of me that needed to understand why. The part of me that wanted her to feel the weight of what she'd done. Not just through words, but through actions. This wasn't just a betrayal of trust. It was a declaration of war. And I wasn't about to lose. I decided I wasn't going to rush this. Confrontation wasn't enough. It was too simple, too fleeting. No, I wanted her to feel what I felt. The slow unraveling of trust. The creeping doubt. The weight of betrayal. The first step was to act like everything was normal. I smiled when I needed to, laughed at her jokes, even agreed to a weekend getaway she suggested. If she suspected anything, she didn't show it. Behind the scenes, though, I was piecing together my plan. I started small, testing her reactions. I left the watch box out on the table again, slightly askew. She noticed it the moment she walked into the room, her smile faltering. "I thought I put this away," she muttered, shoving it back into a drawer. I said nothing, but I watched. Every time she looked at her phone, every excuse to leave the room, every slight change in her tone. The cracks in her facade were starting to show, and I made sure to widen them, one subtle move at a time. At work, I stayed late, making it easier to review our finances, her messages, even her calendar. The pieces were falling into place. This wasn't just about revenge. It was about control, reclaiming the balance of power she thought she'd stolen. The opportunity came sooner than I expected. We had plans to meet friends for dinner, one of those gatherings where she always liked to play the perfect wife. Charming, attentive, effortlessly graceful. I decided to test the waters. As we got ready, I casually mentioned, I've been thinking about that watch again. It's such a unique gift. Maybe I should get one for myself. Do you still have the name of the company?" Her hand froze mid-brushstroke. She quickly recovered, smiling at me in the mirror. "Oh, I'm not sure I kept it. It was just some promotional thing. Probably not even worth the trouble." Her deflection was expected, but it still sent a wave of anger through me. Not because of the lie, but because she thought I'd accept it. At dinner, I played my part, laughing at the right moments, acting like the devoted husband everyone believed I was. But beneath the surface, I was planting seeds. I said casually to the group, "I've been thinking of surprising her with something special. She's always loved thoughtful gifts. Any ideas?" Her eyes darted toward me, panic flickering for just a second before she masked it with a laugh. "You're too sweet," she said, her hand brushing mine. The others chimed in with suggestions, but I barely heard them. Her discomfort was all the confirmation I needed. The game had begun, and I was ready to play it to the end. The next morning, I left for work as usual, or at least, that's what I let her believe. Instead, I circled back home, parking a block away. Sitting in the car, I felt a strange calm settle over me. The chaos in my mind was finally aligning with a purpose. By mid-morning, she left the house, just as I expected. I let myself in, heading straight for the drawer where she'd stashed the watch. It wasn't there. A quick search revealed she had moved it to her closet, tucked away in a shoebox. I pulled out my phone and took a picture of it, the engraved initials gleaming under the light. Next to it, I found the handwritten note, the one I had memorized down to the last word. Another picture. Evidence. I left everything as it was, but not before planning something of my own. A small, inconspicuous recording device tucked behind the closet door. I wasn't sure what I'd catch, but I wanted to leave nothing to chance. That evening, as we sat together watching TV, her phone buzzed. She glanced at it and quickly turned it over, her smile a little too forced. I stayed quiet, my face a mask of indifference, but inside, I was already planning how to use what I'd gathered. The time to reveal the truth was approaching, but I wasn't going to hand it to her all at once. No, I wanted her to feel it coming, to know something was wrong, but not be able to stop it. The night of the confrontation was carefully chosen. A quiet evening at home, just the two of us. I made her favorite dinner, set the table with candles, and poured her a glass of wine. She looked surprised but pleased, as if this was some spontaneous romantic gesture. Halfway through the meal, I casually mentioned the watch. "I've been thinking about that gift again. I said, swirling the wine in my glass. It's so thoughtful. It must have meant a lot to whoever sent it. Her smile faltered. Oh, I told you it's just a work thing. Why are you still stuck on that? She said, her tone defensive. I leaned back in my chair, letting a small smile play on my lips. Work thing, right? That's what you said. But here's what I don't get. Why would a vendor write a note that personal? To make every moment count. Sounds like someone who knows you pretty well. Her face turned pale. She opened her mouth to respond, but I didn't give her the chance. I slid my phone across the table, the pictures of the watch and the note glowing on the screen. Care to explain this? I asked, my voice calm but cold. She stared at the screen, her hands trembling slightly. I can explain, she began, but I raised a hand to stop her. I'm sure you can, I said, but let me save you the trouble. I already know. About him, about the messages, about everything. Her eyes filled with tears, but I didn't waver. You've had your fun, I said, standing up and clearing the plates. But now it's my turn. I left her sitting there, stunned and silent, while I walked away. The look on her face was everything I had imagined, and more. The following days were a masterclass in tension. I kept my distance, polite but distant, while she tiptoed around me, trying to gauge how much I knew, or what I intended to do with that knowledge. What she didn't know was that I had set the stage for the next part of my plan. I arranged for her lover to meet me, a casual message sent from her phone while she was out running errands. The location? A quiet cafe on the outskirts of town where no one would recognize us. When he arrived, his confident demeanor evaporated the moment he saw me. I didn't waste time with pleasantries. Instead, I laid out the evidence in front of him, the photos, the texts, even a snippet of the recording I had retrieved. I'm not here to fight, I said calmly, watching him squirm. But you need to understand something. You've crossed the line, and now you're going to help me fix it. His confusion turned to fear as I laid out my terms. He would end things with her immediately, leaving her with no explanation. And if he didn't, everything I had on him would find its way to his wife. He agreed, of course. Men like him always fold when the stakes are too high. When I got home that evening, she was waiting for me, tears in her eyes. I don't know what's happening, she said, her voice trembling. He stopped talking to me. He won't answer my calls. I cut her off with a quiet laugh. Oh, I wouldn't worry about him, I said, walking past her to the living room. You should probably start worrying about yourself instead. Her confusion gave way to panic, and for the first time, I saw the cracks in her carefully constructed world. It was satisfying in a way I hadn't expected, but it wasn't enough. Not yet. The final piece of my plan unfolded on a Saturday evening. She had been walking on eggshells for days, trying to reach out, trying to fix what couldn't be mended. I let her try, all the while keeping my next move under wraps. That night, I handed her a sealed envelope. What's this? She asked, her voice hesitant. Open it, I replied, stepping back to watch. Inside, she found printed copies of the evidence, the texts, the pictures, even a detailed timeline of her deceit. Alongside them was a document, divorce papers, signed by me. Her face turned white. You don't have to do this, she whispered, tears spilling over. We can work through this. I made a mistake, but we can fix it. I shook my head, the calm in my voice a stark contrast to her desperation. You didn't just make a mistake, I said. You made choices. Repeatedly. And now, I'm making mine. For the first time in weeks, I felt free. The anger, the pain, it didn't vanish, but it no longer consumed me. I had taken control, and the weight of her betrayal no longer rested on my shoulders. As I walked out of the house, I didn't look back. The man I was before this, trusting, naive, was gone. And though the future felt uncertain, I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't leaving as a victim. I was leaving as someone who finally understood his own worth.
Keep watching our stories by clicking on one of the videos that appear on the screen, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to be alerted about new videos. See you next time.